You are lying in bed right now. The ceiling fan spins uselessly above you while sweat sticks to the sheets. The thermostat reads 87 degrees, and you can already hear the air conditioner humming louder than your thoughts. Next month's electric bill is going to hurt, but it doesn't have to be this way. In a quiet farmhouse outside Shipshewana, Indiana, sits a $15 bucket. It cools an entire Amish bedroom to 71 degrees for 8 straight hours every summer night. No electricity, no compressor, no monthly payments, just cold water, a piece of cloth, and simple physics the Amish have used since before air conditioning was invented in 1902. I first saw it work on a humid July evening. An elderly Amish man named Eli poured well water into an old galvanized pail, while his wife adjusted a thin cotton sheet. Within an hour, the room felt like early spring. Eli looked at me and said, "This is what your people forgot. They had it once, then someone made sure you never learned it again. Tonight, I'm going to show you exactly how that bucket works, why it stayed hidden in plain sight, and how you can set it up in your own home before you go to sleep." The setup itself looks almost too basic to be real. A standard 3-gallon galvanized bucket, the kind sold at any hardware store or farm supply for under $15. Inside it, cold water drawn straight from the tap, or, better yet, well water sitting around 52 to 55 degrees. Wrapped tightly around the outside of the bucket is a single piece of unbleached cotton muslin, the same fabric used for generations in Amish kitchens. The bottom few inches of that cloth drape into a shallow tray filled with the same cold water. Capillary action pulls the moisture steadily upward, keeping the entire fabric damp without any extra effort. Behind the bucket sits a small battery-powered fan, the kind that runs for hours on a few D-cells. That fan draws warm room air across the wet muslin. As the air passes over the damp surface, evaporation does the heavy lifting. The air leaves noticeably cooler, often dropping the room temperature by 15 to 20 degrees in less humid conditions. The first time you feel it, you understand why the Amish never abandoned this method even after everyone else did. The science is ancient and rock solid. When water evaporates, it absorbs heat. It takes roughly 540 calories to turn a single gram of water into vapor, and that energy gets pulled directly from the surrounding air. This is the same principle that makes you feel cold stepping out of a pool on a breezy day. Egyptian records from 2600 BC show servants fanning wet clay jars to cool royal chambers. The Persians perfected evaporative cooling towers. German settlers brought the knowledge to America in the 1700s, and the Amish preserved it through every technological change. But somewhere along the way, America chose a different path. In the early 1930s, powerful interests in the emerging refrigeration industry began shaping how cooling was discussed in official guides. Mechanical systems were promoted as modern necessities, while simple evaporative methods were quietly labeled outdated. The result? Generations grew up believing only expensive machines could solve summer heat. The Amish watched their English neighbors install costly units, sign long-term service contracts, and pay rising electric bills while they kept filling their buckets each evening. You don't need any special skills or home modifications to make this work tonight. Grab a galvanized bucket, 3 yards of plain cotton muslin, a shallow metal tray, and a small fan. Total cost stays right around $14 or $15. Place the bucket on a low stool or crate about 6 to 8 inches off the floor. Fill it 3/4 with the coldest water available. Wrap the muslin completely around the bucket, letting the bottom edge sit in the tray of water. Position the fan to blow across the wet fabric toward your sleeping area. Close the bedroom door, draw the curtains, and let it run. Within 30 to 40 minutes, temperatures start falling. In drier climates like Arizona or New Mexico, drops of 25 to 30 degrees are common. In more humid areas like the southeast, you may see 8 to 12 degrees, which is still enough to turn restless nights into solid sleep. For extra humid conditions, some Amish families use 2 buckets on opposite walls with an additional damp sheet hanging between them, creating a cooling corridor of moving air. People always ask about mold. The solution comes straight from old Amish ledgers. Each morning, take the muslin down and hang it in direct sunlight for a couple of hours. The ultraviolet light naturally kills bacteria and spores. Wash it weekly, and you're done. 3 minutes of work keeps everything fresh. Another common question is whether this works for larger homes. The honest answer is that 1 bucket cools 1 room effectively. The Amish have always focused on cooling the spaces where people actually spend time rather than trying to maintain perfect temperatures everywhere. That single room approach saves enormous amounts of energy and money. For the hottest nights, there's one more traditional enhancement passed down through families. A small handful of plain table salt added to the bucket water lowers the evaporation threshold and keeps the cooling effect stronger even as temperatures drop overnight. Some add a few ice cubes at the beginning for an initial boost. The combination can push the air coming off the muslin down to the low 60s, holding the bedroom comfortably cool until morning. This method uses a tiny fraction of the electricity required by a window unit. It never breaks down because there are no moving parts to fail, except the simple fan. 6% of all electricity generated in this country goes toward air conditioning. That's tens of billions of dollars every summer. The Amish pay almost none of that while sleeping just as comfortably as their neighbors. Everything you need is already within reach. No contractors, no permits, no expensive installations, just basic materials and a little knowledge that was nearly lost. The ground beneath your house stays cool year-round. The physics of evaporation has worked for thousands of years. The only thing missing was remembering how to use it. If you're tired of high electric bills and noisy machines, try this bucket system this weekend. Set it up, add the salt for those brutal nights, and experience the difference. Tell me in the comments which state you're in, what your cooling costs were last summer, and whether you have access to well water. I read every comment, and the next videos will answer the best questions. This knowledge survived because practical people valued results over trends. Comfort doesn't have to be expensive when you work with nature, instead of against it. Build the bucket, feel the cool air, and share what happens. Subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next traditional solution pulled from old ledgers and farmhouses. Sleep cooler tonight knowing you have options the modern world tried to forget. See you in the next one.